And I'm going to give it back to you.
Excellent. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:01. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank everybody for coming today. Looks like we don't have our full crew here yet, but we have our full board. So let's all rise for the pledge. See the flag behind you? Pledge allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
With liberty
liberty and justice.
for all. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we're permitted to hold this meeting remotely by an executive order of the governor. This meeting will be videotaped and transcribed. We'll start right off with the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda as presented?
Bob, I would like to ask that the minutes be removed from the consent agenda to be voted on separately.
Perfect. Nope, I should have thought of that. Thank you, Mary. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting?
So moved?
Motion by Ann,
Second.
second by Heidi. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is Jackie on or not on?
I'm here.
All right, so motion passes 4-0. Do we have a motion for the rest of the consent agenda? So that'd be B through D, Treasury Report, Condition Accounts, and Internal Claims Audit Report.
So moved.
Motion by Mary, I think.
Second.
Second by Heidi. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Excellent. All right. No presentation tonight. We will have the single public audience at the end, like we did last time. No communications on the agenda tonight. No old business on the agenda. If there are no objections, I'd like to include items A and B under one motion. Hearing no objections, do we have a motion for the BOCES board election ballot and the BOCES budget vote?
So moved.
Motion by Heidi.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mary, I think. Any discussion? So there are 5 open seats, only 3 people on the ballot. And so that we didn't separate it for that reason. Even at this point, if anybody wanted to, if there was, we can't force you to vote for somebody you don't want to. So if you want to vote for somebody, not somebody else, then we can pull those apart. We suspected having 3 willing people for 5 seats that probably wouldn't happen. But again, it only takes one person to separate those if they want. And then the second is the budget vote. Any discussion or questions, or Dr. Glover, do you have anything to add to that?
No, the information is there in part of the packet. There's the vote for the individuals. I just point of clarity for Karen and myself is that a yay vote on both on the grouping would indicate a yes vote for each of those candidates and a yes vote.
Okay. Perfect. Any discussion or objection to that? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Did we? Yeah, opposed? Sorry. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to Business Affairs C. Do we have a motion to, on recommendation of the superintendent, approve the agreement between the town of Salem and the Salem Central School District for transportation?
So moved.
By Heidi.
A second?
Second by Ann. Discussion?
If it's able to happen, is the swim program going to be in Cambridge or at Hebron Camp?
I don't know that yet. I'm not sure that they know that yet.
Okay. I know they were thinking about moving from Cambridge.
Yeah, and there was at one point because of the lake isn't always reliable because of the bacteria counts there. The other part is I did talk with Herb Perkins yesterday at the Rotary meeting, and they're still not confident lunch, learn, and play is going to happen. So if it doesn't happen, of course, this ends up being moved. for the transportation and the need. And of course, there is language in the contract that if, we're told by the governor at some point that we're not able to do this, we of course would be able to let them know that we would have to pull the transportation at that time because it'd be by executive order. So we figured better to have it in just in case than not have it in place in the event that we play this summer.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to the D, the budget transfer approval. Do we have a motion on the recommendation of superintendent to approve the attached budget transfer?
So moved.
Motion by Mary,
Second.
second by Heidi. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to instructional affairs. Let's start out with Ms. Vieira. It's only been 2 weeks since we heard from you last, but let's hear from Ms. Vieira.
So, so far for all of the requests that we've had for Chromebooks, we have fulfilled all but 2. We still have 2 Chromebooks sitting here, which hopefully we'll get them out to them this week. I randomly get some calls for 1 or 2, but we've been getting them out pretty quick. I'm pretty excited about that. At least we're getting them into the hands of kids. Report cards went out, gone well. We've been having teachers coming in once a week, which has been pretty cool. At least see them, and I think they feel a little more connected that way. So that's been really great. Other than that, I think the big thing is Julie and I have been working. She's been working a lot on the grading practices form that BOCES put out. We've been talking about how we want to get that out to everybody. I know I talked about it a little bit in my video last week. But we really want to kind of put it in writing and get it out. So we've been kind of tackling that. That's about it.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Vieira? None? All right. Ms. Adams.
Similar report to Ms. Vieira in terms of all of the same is going on in the high school. We, I believe, have adjusted relatively well to the remote challenges of remote learning. We are working with students, to continue with the expectations. Now that we have the Regents exemption, that changes a little bit what kind of the pace is at the high school level. So we're still trying to work through that. So as part of what Ms. Vieira mentioned with our grading practices, we'll also have an overview for the different grade levels in terms of, we broke it out K through 2, 3 through 5, 7 and 8, and then the senior high school. Just with now seeing this extension through May 15th, we feel comfortable really with the direction now that we think we need to go in. And so we want to put that out. So talking a little bit about what that will look like for Q4. And as we obviously may need to update it as we see more from New York State, but we're hoping just kind of going through the final editing stages of that administratively and hope to have that out relatively soon. Again, we recognize that there are a lot of challenges for the families and our students at home with the remote learning, and there are so many different versions of accessibility. So I want to, again, encourage families and students. We've been, I think the teachers have been doing a great job with being flexible, just, trying to make contact and really trying to work through the individual situation. So it's something that I know Karen and I are both really proud of, and we have our teachers have been great with communicating with the families. And so if families are having challenges, please either let me know or contact the teachers directly. Finally, we have a tentative date to reschedule the prom. We're somewhat optimistic, but I guess would say cautiously optimistic. We're shooting for August 15th. We recognize that may or may not work, but wanted to really be able to have all of our students participate. Some of our students were bringing guests that were seniors, had planned on that. So we would really love that they could still bring their planned guests with them. We realize that that may not work, and if it doesn't work, then we'll figure out our next steps. So tentatively, we sent out communication to students and families about that at this point, and obviously that's flexible, and we'll keep you posted. And finally, I think one of the things we're doing as a faculty right now is brainstorming. We know that this is challenging for all of our students, but especially our seniors. They're missing kind of the final special times of their senior year. So we're looking to work as a faculty and with some community members. We have some interest. I don't want to give a lot of details yet. We're still kind of working on it, but to do some things to maybe celebrate and recognize our seniors during the closure, especially if it gets extended beyond May 15th, as well as have probably Miss Perkins and I had a discussion about graduation this week. We're probably going to have a plan A, B, and C, possibly, depending on the different restrictions for group sizes. So as we learn more about that, we'll let you know, but we are working on it, trying to make sure that we have everything in order. So we're not having a lot of communication because we're not really sure what the plans will be yet, but Mr. Zarzicki has also been working with the seniors. He's in the course at the end of last week, and probably no later than the end of this week, if he hasn't already, is reaching out to all of the seniors to let them know where they are in terms of rank and checking in with them about what they need, those types of things. So still a lot of our senior planning is going on. So I did want to just share that with you because we didn't discuss that last time. So that's where we're at the high school.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Adams? So I have a question, or not, more of a comment, I guess. And it may actually be more of a district level than actually high school, but germane to your comments and that nice report is, I think it does make sense to communicate with the community even when we don't know. Not specific to, I mean, I haven't heard anything about graduation, but I think in general, people like to know we're thinking about it, or like to know you're thinking about it, like to know that the school, that administration has that on the radar. And I think we don't have to have the answer to let people know, because I think people get nervous when they, if they don't hear anything, then they're not sure that it's being thought about. So I think it's worth just, and like I said, I don't think the answer has to be known at all. To get value out of that communication.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments for Ms. Adams? All right, Dr. Glover.
Hey, good evening. For my report today really surrounds both kind of the upcoming elections for the budget and for the board seats and the budget. I'll start with the latter. Recently, Governor Cuomo showed a slide in his normal presentation, a 20% cut to education. It was pretty much 20% cut across the board in 3 different areas, short of any federal funding that may come our direction to help fund states and thusly to help support schools. I've already reached out to our federal representative and plan to do so again this week. There's a bit more of a letter writing campaign to try to stave off some of these cuts that are coming through. But if we end up with a 20% cut, depending on how that cut is implemented, will range anywhere from really bad to catastrophic. A 20% across the board of all of it is about $1.1 million. In a district where we have a budget of almost $14 million, that's a really hard number to overcome. We're still waiting on what's going to happen. The look back date is the 30th, but the state has kind of tipped its hand to let us know where they think we're headed if the funding doesn't come into place. as we have more information, we'll share it with you, and then some plans together of how we hope to be able to address a cut of whatever size it may be coming in a revenue stream for this year's budget. With the vote on the budget, as well as for the vote for the board seats, the only date still being thrown around is June 9th, but there's no further information other than that's what they're thinking. They're still not advising anyone go out to the canvas for petitions for some obvious reasons. There's no talk of if they're going to move around any of the deadlines and the timelines for public notifications and the pieces that we normally do when it goes with a budget, or how we handle the election pieces that come into place. The last conversation we heard was talking about possibly doing a mail-in ballot. But for a school, we don't register all of our voters. That's not something we're required to do. Makes it extremely difficult to be able to do it that way. So the state is aware of this, the governor's office is aware of this, the state ed is aware of this, and so are our elected officials. But it's a lot we still need to know about how our upcoming votes are going to come into place. But at this point, we don't have any other information other than we just kind of keep it on the radar, and I'll keep you updated as we get more. And that's all for me for tonight. You're muted, Bob.
Does anybody else know, Bob?
Bob, you're muted.
Yeah.
About that, I muted myself when I got I was just telling you, I actually asked if there's any questions for Dr. Lemon. Are there any questions for Dr. Lemon?
I know you were speaking about the New York State budget. What's the status of our budget? Have we taken a look at, what we may have to do there?
Yeah, we're
You can have another half. You can have half of mine.
looking over our budget and adjusting as we get new information. With the information that I provided for the vote on the BOCES budget, they've adjusted their budget down already. So we've made some adjustments there. And I've been working with principals and talking with Karen about just brainstorming some ideas, what it would look like in our current situation. And then we'll see what happens if the cut becomes much larger. We have some information. We're continuing to work. We have a draft we can get out to you just so you can kind of get a feel for where we're headed. Nothing changes where we are now. I think we'll be in okay shape until the look back periods happen. But everything we're pointing to is that another cut is coming. It's just a matter of how big it's going to be.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Dr. Glover? All right, we're going to move on to capital project update. I don't know if only I or if everybody saw the chat from the message from Mrs. Maxwell just about there being a lot of background noise. I actually just muted a few people, but I didn't mute board members, but that's why I had muted myself and then I forgot to unmute myself when I was speaking. So it does seem like there's a little less background noise now than there was before. So moving on to capital project update.
This is all about in colors today. So as I'm some information, we got the contracts in. They are on the agenda later here for your acceptance, that to give basically Bob and or myself the authority to sign off on those contracts once they're done. The attorney and I reviewed them on Saturday, and we're looking to get just some additional information to make sure the attorney is happy. Binders have been reviewed. And so once we have these approvals done for today, the contracts are cleared, we are ready to go and start on the project. So here is on your screen, you should be looking at a playground right now. This is the color scheme that was based on your feedback. I sat and worked with Mosaic's interior decorator. Basically, I gave her the color stuff and said, tell me what we need to do. And so these are colors of her choice. Basic designs that are almost identical. here you can see in the uprights for the more of the tan color, that, you know, the tans and the gray decking is part of the conversation. Version 2, differences in the uprights are in the purple, and then the more of the tan into these places. I do have more pictures. I just pulled these two out because they give you the best, kind of broadest look of what the playground is in place. What's the board's thoughts?
I do love the neon green. I wasn't part of the conversation that landed on that, but I can say that I'm not a fan of the green.
Well, I don't think the neon green was ever really brought up specific color wise. I do like the purple mixed in with the grays and the taupe and the beige, whatever color you want to call it. I mean, I think I'm not totally against the bright colors. I don't know if green is the right color for Salem, but maybe.
Yeah.
Well, if you go through some of the other pictures, you do see some of the dark gray, and it has the primary color accents. It's got the blue or the red, and I think that looks really great. I do have to say that those bright colors are not necessarily would be my choice at all. We're going to be using this for, see the dark, here it is, the dark gray with the blue, and there's red there too. And, you know, the kids that are going to play on this playground, it's the likelihood that their children are going to play on it is pretty high, because the amount of money that we're putting into it, it's not going to be changed over very quickly. So I do like the neutral grays with the primary colors. I like the blue or the red. And I think that they also, you know, there was a darker green. So for me, I think those classic colors, the primary colors, the gray or the metallic colors behind it, are something that over time is going to hold up.
I mean, I think some fun color to it for the kids is a nice thought. And
that's true.
It has to be green, but I'm just
the only kid's going to use it. There's kids for a long time, and I like the red. The red goes with our red brick building. So if we go with the primary colors, those are classic. And you've got there's a bright red, there is a yellow, something like that. The green, I think, is kind of faddish. I think it's going to fade in popularity. At least I would.
I just wonder, how would the blue look with that purple? I mean, like the blue on this rock wall looks pretty cool, and it looks nice, gray and blue over there. Could we do something more of the darker blue rather than the green or something? I don't know.
I should note on the climbing walls, there's actually supposed to be a beige in here as well for the rocks, but they were having a computer glitch at the playground company. So this is like in every other color. It's not just a solid blue. Unless you like the solid blue, in which case we'll tell them to keep the solid blue.
I don't mind the blue. I mean,
those to have it different colors, I think would make it pop.
Yeah.
The primary and some neutral.
One of the things that they did say on the website was that you could request color samples. Is that something that anybody did?
We have the color samples, or it's what I forwarded to you in the
actual.
No, we didn't ask for actual materials.
Any thoughts, Jackie?
I mean, I showed these to my kids and my husband, and the green, all three voted no on the green. I prefer the views, I think, that you have up there now, where the purple is the railing, or like the flat stucco vertical, where all the uprights are the tan. And I was kind of thinking with the green pieces, like over time they get dirty. Like if you had yellow, I think we had a yellow slide. One of the little slides was yellow before, and they get dirty over time, so they just look kind of crummy. So maybe going with a darker color for those pieces that get wear and tear would be And maybe no purple at all. You know, if we use they had like a dark blue with those tan might look nice, and then I think they had some maroon pieces. In the whole sample that he gave us.
Right.
I don't want
A darker color that's not green on the plastics.
Yes.
I don't want to stray too far from our Salem colors too, because if we go maroon accents, people are going to be like, "What does maroon have to do with Salem School?" I just throwing that out there. Just a thought.
Well, that was my thought with the primary colors. It would be,
Right.
there's an elementary playground. The primary colors are pretty classic and, have the grays or the metallic colors
Right.
for the uprights.
I'm going to switch over to the earlier selections. I did find them just so you can look at different colors and where they look.
Yeah, I don't like the yellow either.
So that's, that was what the yellow plastics looked like. That's purple. But that's what the beige and green would look like on that darker climbing wall.
See, I don't think that looks bad. The green and the beige on the wall. I think I like the blue better. Maybe green and blue.
They have four
Kinda like the
colors
green
for
blue.
those: red, blue, green, and beige.
I like that green better than the neon green.
This is actually that
Without green, but
this is a pull it off the shelf type piece.
It
That's
doesn't seem Salem to me though.
too much green.
that's the loudest one they had.
I think that's not as loud as the lime green.
Okay.
I don't care for the yellow.
There's the this is the rainforest palette. There's a picture of what that darker green would be.
Yeah, I like the darker green. The darker green with the purple may not be bad.
I'd rather go with maybe a gray or with the purple and then the primary colors added in with the beige.
Yeah, that would be more to my liking. I guess I kind of want to see it, but that sounds like something that I would be more interested in.
Okay, so we're looking for something in the blues and a darker color. Primary blues. I'm not talking about just blue. I'm talking about.
I'm not totally against some purple being in there. It is our school color, one of them.
Okay. Any other?
What happens if we did like the purple and gold on the rock wall as the handles with the gray background, like those kind of accent pieces, and then they're not.
I don't believe so. No.
There's only 4 colors that are available for the handholds. There's a red, there's a blue, a green,
I
and that
see them.
beige.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I like the blue and I don't know, blue and what did you said? Heidi, I think you said blue and red maybe, or blue and.
Yeah, I like the
Green
blue.
I thought would be nice together rather than the blue and the beige. I see the beige getting dirty. I don't know. But I thought the blue, if you alternated not this green, but the dark green that was shown before would be nice.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
I like the purple railings, I think don't look bad, but I like the beige on the top of like the points and stuff. And the gray over here looks nice, and then you got like the red on the swing over here. Like I think it's nice. It's got different colors added in.
Right.
The neon green wasn't so predominant.
I mean, they have a gray for the plastics as far as the slides too, that we could match with is that what the railing, the monkey contraption thing is?
That's the here zip line. Hey, we talking about this gray here?
Yeah, like that whole.
Okay.
If the slides were gray there, I don't know. And then we have pops of like accent colors, you know, because I think like the gray and the purple kind of look nice together.
So I would agree, and it's rare that I favor purple, but I think the gray with the purple, that sounds like something I could support.
Yeah, I think it's not a crazy obnoxious purple. I think it's a nice purple.
No, I think it kind of depends what it's mixed with, right? I'd be interested in seeing the gray with the purple.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you like this version better where it's the tan in the uprights? Or,
Yes.
or do you prefer the with the tan as the handrails?
No, I like the other way better.
Mhm.
So that one. So it's the purple with the basically the hand railings, and then all the uprights are in that tan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd like to see it. I don't know, but
Get your red-
I think that sounds like a major step in the right direction from my perspective.
This is easy to get renderings on because it's just you know, they have like a program set and they already have this laid out. So it's a matter of plugging color A into color B, and then turning it around. It's difficult.
And I do like the layout.
Yeah.
It's going to be a touch more organic. It's not going to be a square. When it says it's going to have a little bit more flow to it around once it's set. But the basic layout here is it's going to be laid out as the younger stuff is going to be closer to the school buildings, and then it'll gradually get older as you get away from it. So it'll be a little bit zoned by age. Tan upright purple handrails. And we're looking for that gray from the Jungle Gym on the plastics, and I heard something on some primary colors too. I will see what I can get together and get it to you. To look at. Anything else on the playground?
No.
The next piece is from the interior decorator on basically the rest of the project. She spent quite a bit of time here. Basically, you know, with the goal of being is in the 38 build in the original building, doing whatever we can to match what the building looks like. And I actually have samples behind me that are in place. Here, they normally don't do renderings for each piece, but they kind of outline for you what, get this out of the way. They outline for you what each piece comes into play. So this is the nurse's office. Floor here, this is going to be hardwood floor put in. Like the hardwood, it's not going to be the same type of flooring we have in there, but it's still going to be a hardwood floor that we'll replace it with. We're going to do the base and the woodwork to match. And then you can see there the colors for what the wall is going to look like, what the ceiling will look like, and then the curtains that are in there as part of the layout. And that's this main space for the bathrooms. And this is pretty much going to be the bathrooms everywhere. We use the bathroom in my office as the model to follow the same color pattern to there. She gave us a couple options. Actually, one was her option and one was the Tile Guys option from the company. Basically, they're just slight differences between the two. They both match very well. One's just a little lighter than the other. But when everything gets put down, it'll be very close to all the other bathrooms that we have here that will match this pattern, which if you were looking to the bathrooms in the 38 build, that's what they have in there. Another, and this is the other bathroom, same thing. Continue to match it, same pieces, except this is into where the new office place is going to be carpeted gray. I don't know if you can see behind me. You can't really in this camera, but we have a sample of the carpet here too. It's kind of a Gerber type thing, low profile that will look nice in there for the carpet into that space. Everything else is going to have kind of the same look and feel for the building as it does currently.
And carpet rather than flooring, huh?
Yeah, for the office area, yeah. Like the guidance office is carpeted, I want to say. currently. The library is currently carpeted. We do have a classroom upstairs carpeted, and the computer lab is carpeted at this point. This is the toilet room upstairs. So this is that vestibule area that we had chatted about before. In that, it's going to be the same flooring as it is out in the hallway. Same bathroom tile pattern into the bathrooms that are in place. And then this is closet. So in here where the storage is, this is coloring for the closets. Wall paint, floor again, the elevation, and then in the bathrooms, the same match. So a lot of effort going into maintaining the same look and feel in the 38 building. So when you walk into it, it looks like it was just part of the building. This is the new bathroom, I believe, over the 54 wing, which I believe that would be the primary. They're the new 88 bath toilet that's there. Neutral, very basic, match the basics of overall what you have going on over there. I think that tile pattern is a little different for the mosaic tile into it, but pretty much matching what we have in the other parts of the buildings. This is the circle bathroom when it's renovated. Space. In this area here that I'm going to be messing with, going to match the current floor. So we're going to continue the floor from the hallway into this corridor space. Toilet rooms are going to have the mosaic floor, similar to what's in there for now. And then over here, you can see what the tile color is, the paint color, the tile color, and then the grout color that fit in between. And it's pretty much to match what the rest of the high school looks like currently. So it's get it to blend in like it was always there, like it was always supposed to be there. Any questions so far?
No.
This we already talked about. This is the painted line one versus the tile one, the tile before. The lockers, the floor. I do have samples of what the bathroom stalls are. It's a little bit of a different material. It's supposed to help against vandalism and scuff up, and it's supposed to be easier to maintain. And then the floor is going to be a poured floor and speckled to give you kind of that look and feel for the bathroom piece. But that's we chatted there. This is the carry-on for the office. Just when we redo everything, so we're redoing some of that office spaces too. The floor is going to match the floor that's in the locker rooms, and then basically wall and ceiling paint. This space here is the corridor part for the new addition. Basically looking to get the floors to match what's coming in out of the hallway, and then basic tans. They have a gray accent, but they did actually find the same color green that is currently in the hallway. So we have a color match now for the gray. So we can put that green in its place and then have that same color carry all the way through to the new build that's in place rather than the gray. But it's, when we were talking about the new build, it's either you do everything you can to get it match, or you make it contrasting on purpose so it looks like it's different. And that's why they went with the gray before, because we didn't have the green. But she showed me the green today, and it's almost spot on. This is what it currently looks like, and that's what we're going to try to get it to continue to match in the new build. These are the new bathrooms done in the end. This is, I guess, in part of Moment of Truth. Same tiling, same as the bathroom stores is there. The same flooring as we have in the hallway to carry into the spaces. They're into place. These are outdoors. So you can see what they'll have for floors. It'll be a little bit more rugged than the inside version will be. The only difference to here is the school colors are in that school hallway. She called it a jolly, I guess. There's tiles they call jolly. I didn't know that. I learned that today. Basically, it's a 1/4 inch long that carries through, and made the suggestion of carrying it, the purple down the one, and then the gold and the kind of as the accent wall. It's just a slight hint of the school colors in, in this space. We do carry the colors down that hallway, but it's done in squares, not in the single line. For those bathrooms.
That's the new bathrooms out at the end of the hall?
That's the new build. And that's actually in the bathroom space.
So I guess my question when I was looking at this is everything else seems to match what we currently have. And then this one is different.
Like for here?
No, the with the accent color, like it seems like everything else is all neutral tones and that we don't really have this purple and gold in anything.
We can carry that green in there if you want to. That's not an issue.
I don't know. That's just what I first thought.
Well, I think in part it's, when she looked at it, she thought it would be nice to kick because we do have the purple and gold in the tiling in the high school hallway in the 99 hall. So the thought of carrying it into the bathrooms, and this was her suggestion. We don't want to do that. We can either go back to that gray example that was listed before, or we can pick up the green example that is that matches that would match what's outside in the hall.
So not shockingly, I mean, I don't ever feel the need to accent apparently. And so I kind of agree with Jackie just because we kind of go from that mint green. I mean, my preference would just be the gray in there, but again, not a hill to die on.
I guess I just don't recall the purple, ever seeing purple and gold down there when we did the walkthrough, but that was a while ago.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's like a green, like diamond, and then they're only like 1x1 squares, or they're really small that are in there, and then the gold that carries through. It's in it.
It's in the hallway?
In the hallway, yeah. Because I looked at it and went, this purple's weird because the purple's actually a matte, it's not a glossy, and it stuck out to me a bit.
Another different purple? It's hard to believe.
So, what's our feeling on the accent in the new toilet build? Do we want to go with the gray or that green?
I don't have an opinion.
It's a bathroom. I mean,
Well, they have the green available, or is it limited, how much green they have?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's limited. There wasn't any indication to me that it was a limited. It is a little different because the green that they found is smooth. The green in the hallway has a little bit of a texture to it. It's a little pebble.
Okay.
For difference, but walking down the hall, if you're looking at the walls that closely, if you're walking down the hall, that's there. It's maybe a touch darker. Can you? When I pop off the screen, I'll show you. I have it in a box. No one mentioned.
That's me, sorry.
How's everyone's ears? Is everyone back?
yeah.
Okay. So they give me a chance to go get a bag of goodies. And I'll show you the pieces for this work into here on this bathroom build. So there's questions on this accent. The classroom across the hall set up pretty much like the other classrooms are. A little darker in the floor. Other than that accent in the bathroom, was there anything that was like, no, we shouldn't do that?
No.
Nope.
Okay. She did a really nice job, particularly in matching up the bathrooms in the 38 build. But she spent a lot of time in bathrooms putting tiles on the floor and looking them and picking them back up to there. So with that, I'm going to unshare this if we're good. Is there anything else we wanted to look at on this piece?
What's that? What is that?
That's feedback from someone's mic into their speaker, and it keeps going in circles. So if you get to that spot and you hit your mute button, it'll stop that cycle from going. And it wasn't me because I did that when it went through. But here is, I don't know if you can see it. Probably not the best coloring in here. But
Is that green?
yeah, it's probably hard to tell in the lighting.
Bluish, but yeah, I can tell now.
Okay.
Whoever just muted themselves, that must have been it, because I muted myself and it wasn't me.
My end.
So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell in my lighting into there, but there's so we have a green here. This is we go in that new bathroom space. Look like that. This is like kind of going shopping and look what I got at the store. I don't have the gray one in here. I'll have to see if I have it elsewhere for another time. But it's a standard gray. That's in place. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Okay, so
We kicked off the meeting.
who got kicked off the meeting?
Mary. Can anybody see me or hear me?
We can hear you. I cannot see you.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't need to be seen.
I can see your square. We can hear you. That's the important part. It's there.
Okay.
So, unless, what would you like me to do with that piece of it? It looks like everything sounds like it's fine to go forward, except we just want to change that stripe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just want me to have them change that to the gray they were suggesting for the hallway, and we'll move on?
Sure. That's me.
Okay.
Yep.
That'll go a long way to get things started. Okay, unless once we, I guess the only other, just really quickly, is once we have everything signed and sealed and delivered, we are looking to really get started here in a couple weeks. Project will move forward.
Excellent. Any follow-up questions for Dr. Glover on the capital project? All right. Board conference reports. I believe there are none. Board committees. Any board committee chairs have any updates for us?
Nothing from the policy committee.
Nothing from the communications committee.
Has there, have you given any thought to having a remote communications committee meeting, Jackie?
Yeah, actually, I think it might be beneficial just to maybe see, hear from other people and their thoughts on our communication. I think this might be a good test as far as this COVID-19 of how we've been doing as a district as a whole. I know what just throwing ideas out there. Reaching out to our parents and seeing how they feel, maybe through a survey or some sort, just to see what we can do better, differently to meet their needs. But yeah, so I'll email everyone and see if we can set that up in the next couple of weeks.
Excellent. Perfect. Any questions for Ann or Jackie on the committees? All right, let's move on. Personnel. Personnel A. Do we have a motion to grant tenure to Jason LaSelva in the area of English language arts?
So moved.
Motion by Mary, I think. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jackie. Excellent. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Congratulations.
There he is.
Excellent. Moving on to personnel B. Do we have a motion on the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the retirement payout and incentive for Maura Rapp?
So moved.
Motion by Jackie.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to new business. New business A, easement and right of way. Excuse me. Do we have a motion to approve the easement and right of way between Selmstone School District and Northeastern New York Railroad Preservation Corp?
So moved.
Motion by Mary.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Any discussion?
Is this right away something that you put into place periodically and it sunsets when you don't need it? Or is this something that you will continue to have the right of way for egress and exit from the back of the end of the property?
It's something we've had access to for a while. We have used it like we have an emergency bus, no drills.
Go out that way.
Situation. We do use that path, and the kids use that path quite a bit, back and forth. Because of the amount of traffic for really construction traffic we want to bring through there, we figured we're going to have to stone some surfaces on that right of way to be able for that pathway to be able to handle the traffic. And so we wanted a more formal agreement in for the project.
So you're going to do some preparation of the surface?
Yes.
As part of the project? Thank you.
And that will sunset, or that will carry forward?
When the project is over, we won't maintain it any further while our use, but it's for the right of way that's been standing. There was the last one we did was back with the last project, and the work from the last project would maintain. So I would see this one carrying forward as well for just access and use of the right of way area.
Perfect. And I know you've sent us a picture in the past. I didn't. How big of an area is that? Is that landing area, that the staging area going to be?
The staging area is right around an acre.
Football field, roughly.
About basically the wooded area behind the bus garage.
So what kind of site work will you have to do behind the bus garage in order to prepare it, other than, if you put some surface down on that roadway, what else do you anticipate is going to happen behind there for the staging area?
The trees are going to come down. There'll be some grade work that needs to be in there to level everything off. And then that's going to end up being actually a stoned parking lot type of an area. So I think it's going to be like 3 or 4 inches of stone that are going to go down back there. And then that's where our layout area is going to be, and where the trailer is going to go for the contractors, and all that piece is going to go out behind there. It will be fenced in. So we'll have a fence in that area. When the project is done, that area we'll clean that area up a little bit, but the stone will remain so that all like parking available.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
That's me. I tried to rejoin the meeting.
I don't think it was Mary, because I actually muted her and it still continued. So I don't.
Okay.
So, and as the trees are coming down, there's some grading work that's gonna go on. There's some grading work that's gonna go on so we can put down basically a stone parking lot. And the stone parking lot will remain after the project is over.
Just out of curiosity, are you going to have to do anything to go through the town? Because you're in the village and you would have zoning regulations for that particular area of the property. Do you have any idea whether you need to access that system in order to get that clear cut?
No, not to my knowledge. I did have a conversation when I was talking with the right of way with both Sue Clary and Bruce Ferguson about the use of it at the same time, and there wasn't any raised concerns at that point about it right away being an issue.
Well, I don't think it's the right of way. I'm talking about the site work that you're talking about, the clear cut.
There was nothing mentioned to me in that conversation where removing trees from our property would require any permit or anything from the town or village, or from the town.
Well, it's the old village zoning, so that's just something I was aware of. I just, oh, we lost you there. Didn't know if that was something that we needed to be mindful of.
No, I think when they did the merger piece, they didn't adopt all the village ordinances.
They did the zoning.
Yeah, for the zoning pieces of it.
The zoning is still active.
I can double check with Sue, but there wasn't really anything raised as a concern at the time when I had the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just,
I
I'm
think it
glad
makes
you're
sense
going
to-
to check. I think better to err on the side of asking rather than assuming something on that one.
We double check to make sure we can take trees down because the turkey vultures landed in them. We'll check to see if there's zoning rules.
It's site work. Anything you do in the village, it is behind the area. That's the historical part. So there just might be something that you need to consider, just something to think about. Also, how are you going to light it? Are you going to put any lighting back there for security?
At this point, there isn't any plans for any permanent lighting put back there. I'm not sure if because most of the work's going to happen during the day. But there hasn't been any discussion from contractors about lighting at this point.
Well, I was thinking if you were going to turn it into a parking area, then I do think lighting would be something that we would need to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably toward the end of the project when we're looking to theirs, we'll certainly have that conversation of where's the best spot to put the lighting, whether it's post lighting or off the back of the garage.
Thank you.
Good questions. That's good comments. All right. Any further questions on the easement right away? All right. Hearing no further discussion. All in favor of approving the easement right away between the Salem Central School District and Northeastern New York Railroad Preservation Corp.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving on to new business. If there's no objections, I'd like to include all of these resolutions. So it's 8 resolutions, B through I, under one motion. We have a motion to accept the resolutions. I'll read the first one. Be resolved that the Board of Education of Salem Central School District hereby awards a contract for the purchase and installation of bleachers for the school district's additions and alterations at multiple buildings and sites capital project to Professional Furnishings and Equipment in the amount of $114,000. And then it goes on to further resolve that the board hereby authorizes myself and the superintendent to execute the approved contract with each one of these entities. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Jackie. Second.
Second?
Okay, saw Heidi say second, but I didn't actually hear it. Motion by Jackie, second by Heidi, unless there's an objection to either one of those. Discussion.
The bid that the 114,000 includes 9,000 for removal. Does that mean they're going to take away all the wood and all the metal and take everything away? Is that what that $9,000 covers?
That is in there as a
It says optional, but it's included in that amount.
yeah, if they were to take it all away, that's what it would cost us. But they aren't going to take it all away. There's been a community interest in the wood from the bleachers.
Oh, good. I was hoping that there would be some.
Yeah, so what we're planning on doing, and we're still working out details, is we may have them demo that from the gymnasium and bring it outside, where we will remove all of the wood, and then work on how to best, have folks who express interest in that to be able to have access to that. Whether that's through, through a sealed bid or through first come, first serve, or however we decide we want to do that. And actually, we have the contractor looking into, there may be a company that will come and take the steel frame away, so we can be able to scrap that and get what we can out of that monetarily. So right now we're planning on doing the disposal, other than the demo work for me to get outside, so it's easier access for us.
Okay, great. I think that's great. Thank you.
Something that just occurred to me now, I'm not surprised there's interest, but I wonder if there would be interest. In fact, I would have interest in buying a small section, having played in that gym and sat on those bleachers many times, if there would be alumni who would purchase small sections. So
possibly that's I have known that to happen with gym floors. When the old gym floors get ripped up, they sell them off like in dollar chunks as mementos. But I'll mark it down to see it, because I'm sure we won't have perfect wood slats on every occasion, that we might have spare of the old bleachers that you can have as a memento.
Excellent. Perfect. No, I think it is more meaningful to actually have floor than bench, right? That's the goal, is to be on the floor.
That's going to be probably another 5 to 10 years out.
Further questions on the on these resolutions? I have a couple questions. Just point of clarity. So we had approved the acceptance of bids back on February 26th. And I think now we're awarding the contracts. Is that substantially different?
No, we have them separate out differently. The attorney wanted to have everything separate.
Okay.
That's why everything had its own piece. The acceptance of the bids is we went through the bidding day. Here's what the bid amounts were. Here's where our lowest bid person is. The contract piece is now all of the official, this is the work we're going to do. This is how we're going to do the work. It's all kind of the nuts and bolts pieces of what that bid amount is. So one is the dollar amount acceptance. The other is how we're going to do the work to get to that dollar amount.
Okay. So there's always a two-step process.
Mm-hmm. Had we, we'd have probably done this first right off the bat, had we were able to get everything back and forth to the attorney at the time, but we were a little time crunched there, so we accepted the bids right off the bat as they were presented by the architect. And then with here's each bid piece, and then it gives us authorization to be able to sign off on those once they're done. And we're close for all those contracts being done.
The other piece, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, who prepares the contracts? Is that Mosaic, or is that our attorneys, or who actually is the one that's preparing the contract?
There is actually a standard contract format that is out there that gets used, and the contractors put that work together, and then it ends up going in triplicate. So the contractor gets its version of the contract, the architect gets a version, and then we get our version that's there. So the contract is it's standard. It's put together by the AIA. And then with that comes the bonding pieces, comes the insurance binder pieces, and all that the attorney and I went through all that on Saturday to say what's missing, to make sure everything is covered. And then once the attorney says we're good, then that's what gets signed off on. But the contractor does that initial work.
I'm sorry, I just had trouble hearing the last part of that explanation. So
that initial work.
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? I was turning my volume up.
It's the contractor who does that initial work.
Okay. One quick question on B is I'd happen to say that price was good through March 31st. Is that something that's been extended out, or is that still the price that we're approving? You may be muted, Dave. You may still be muted. Not muted on my end, but I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you.
Doesn't show that he's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was turning up my mic because Ann was having problems hearing me. So for item B, that is for the person furnishing, so that is the bleacher. That's actually a price for now that is being extended out. We aren't doing the bleachers until next summer, so that would be 2021 for the bleacher pieces, but that price is being honored still, yes.
Okay. Perfect. Any further questions? All right. So we have a motion on the floor for the 8 resolutions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, let's scroll down. Moving on to GA Special Education Programming.
Okay, I'm going to share this with everybody just to walk through. Jackie, I thought you were waving at me for a second. It's like, you can't see me. So, we talked about the question was raised about, and we had this conversation like last January about what if we were to bring folks back out of placements. When we look at our placements, we currently have a projected or an estimated 107 students for this year for students with IEPs only. Add to that the about 37 anticipated for 504s. And of that 107 students, there are currently 14 or 15 students who are placed outside of the district. So the look at it, when we look at those programs, are we able to bring those students back home and be able to do that in a cost-effective manner if we have kids that have similar enough programming to be able to, to make that piece happen. This slide we've talked about earlier. It just kind of shows the upward trend over the past 5 years or so of the number of students we had for IEPs. This was the slide from last year about where we were planning on going with our programming. We did talk last year about including a 7 through 9 life skills program, and then would that eventually build to a 7 through 12 at the high school for that to be able to happen. What actually ended up landing this year is we ended up not having that life skills program come into place. That students ended up going to different spots off campus. And we did take a hard look at our ICT and decided that what we were doing, though we're looking at ICT, was really more of a consultant teacher model than it was in kind of that ICT model where there's more collaboration, the instructional co-teaching model. And I think in the draft plan, there's one of the goals or one of the objectives in there is to continue that training in that ICT model, but it's not something we currently have in place. The other difference between the two is at the elementary level, is we weren't sure if we were going to need that 611 at the 4th through 6th grade level. It turned out we didn't. One of the challenges of maintaining programs with smaller enrollment in them in a district our size is that sometimes we have movement of people, that those programs aren't viable at a certain point. And that's happened here with the for the kindergarten 1211. It started there, but then it's expanded back into more of a special class for grades 2 through 5. That's where the needs were based. At the younger levels, those needs weren't as great. So there were some adjustments that happened for this school year. And like I said, that we're at the consultant teacher model for the year coming up. And working with the principals and working with Lisa, and I did see Lisa was on at one point for questions if we have them for her, or either of the principals. When we look at the costing for like what our off-site life skills would be, the pieces in orange are the pieces that are included. We have 3.5 students. That's a half student because the other half of that student is in a different program. We cost that differently for that student. But there are currently, so there's 4 students in the program that work out to be 3.5 kids overall. And that placement includes, it's actually 1 teacher and there's actually 2 aides in that program. If we were to bring it back, I'm told that we would need to be able to have a 3rd aide to help make sure there was support for all 3 kids that we would consider bringing back. The assistive tech costs wouldn't change. The adaptive PE, we would likely be able to absorb in our current PE staff. The music therapy would end up remaining the same. The total costing for this is an in-district program is just over $100,000. When you look at our costs, because we would have to hire people in, it's the aid piece that really ends up being the expense, because we wouldn't, that would be with increasing 2 of our part-time aides to full-time, and then I think actually having to hire a 3rd. I'm looking over at Karen and she's nodding her head because Karen's with me tonight. Here, that's really where that additional expense comes into play. That cost is somewhat absorbed by the in-place district. It kind of goes to, when we talk about tuitioning students in, Bob on occasion talks about, to add 1 more kid to a program doesn't cost us anything because we already have the teacher, we already have the aide, and that's the case for this district. They already have the teacher, they already have the aides in the program, they already have it set up, and they have additional slots that are available, and we're able to take advantage of that because they charge us the special education non-resident rate for those individual students, which is why we're able to get a life skills program at a really cost-effective rate and for the kids and for the quality of programming. But the other part we need to look at when we're looking at costing of programs to bring it home is what happens with our aid threshold. When we get to the aid threshold for us, and that's one of our challenges in our special ed costing, is almost $40,000. So in order for us to get aid above and beyond for any of our special education students, we need to be able to be above that 39,576 number. Kind of looking at some rough averaging, because it wouldn't be exactly this for each student. Each student costs about $61,000 in our model here, which would leave the net cost for the overall program basically being the $39,000 number, because that's what we would have to pay before the aid would step in. Above and beyond that, leaving the net cost of that program being $158,000, and that would be about $55,000 more expensive than the way that we are currently doing it. So just in dollars and cents, even if we were to say we're going to take one of those aides out or not hire that part-time aide in, we still end up being over that $103,000 for the costing to bring folks home versus what we currently have into place. When we looked at this, it's based on current teacher availability, and it doesn't consider adjustments students' needs because of the school closure. We know because of the closure, part of our plan is what do we do for compensatory services for kids? What do we do just for overall that kids are missing at least 30% of their school year? How do we provide those costs? We also know that it's currently on current year basing. Next year's costing could be very different. And then just a part to know that for anything that we would bring into home here would have to be a skills and achievement commencement credential. So it wouldn't be a diploma-based program. A diploma-based program would require us to have teachers who are certified in those different areas to teach these life skills classes, which would be about an additional section in all 4 of the core, so English, science, social studies, and math, to head toward a CDOS or a or head toward a CDOS or a diploma type program, which would increase the overall costing into the program, at least at this point. Some other items of consideration is, with the building project, some space that which could very well be alleviated once the new build was done, which we're anticipating to be at the end of, actually by middle of September. Currently, that's when we think that new build space would be done. Because of some age differences in the kids, we would need to start with a variance in having our own program. I talked about there, and then of course, then the absorption of services would have some impact on some of the other things that we do, because the special ed needs would override some of the needs for intervention type services, or for the physical education, we may need to, instead of having an extra PE for a kindergarten class, we might need to take that and use it toward a special education service. Some other things just to think about, we do have some students who will be exiting programs this year and next year because they're toward the end of their programming. That will help reduce some costs out. I talked about the low population already, and then projections of future high school special education support need for students currently enrolled in special ed classes. Basically, here what we're saying is we know we have an elementary need coming up, and that really where we have the need is not necessarily for the students who are in those out of district placements. It's really more about the students who are currently in special classes in 5th grade and in 6th grade, who are going to need additional supports when they get into high school. And that's really where the high school need is, and where the high school need is going to be. And we've already started conversations of what do we do with those students when they get to high school, and 2, 3, 4 years down, or either 1, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, when they have those needs at the high school level. So, kind of the summary statement to this is, we hold a philosophical belief, and I believe it's a good one, about, trying to keep everyone home for a lot of advantages and a lot of reasons why. But at this point, really costing and for cost effectiveness for a program wouldn't warrant us to bring anything home at this point. I think that conversation about what is our budget going to look like, we wouldn't want to necessarily add programs in. That's going to add costs when we're looking at the possibility of cuts in the near future. Any questions?
I do, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around the way that you are costing it out. The threshold that for aid would play into any Salem configuration if we were to offer something, here in Salem. So we would be able to meet that aid threshold, but I don't really see how it's played out. We have actually 4 students, which I think it's when you think about like a resource classroom, you're looking at a maximum of 5. So I think 4 is a good number for an instructional group. And I'm not really sure that if we're looking at 4 students that we would need 4 adults with them, but that's not my decision. That is something that has to go through the CSE. So I'm really not understanding how you are assigning those dollar amounts based on what we would pay Cambridge to take those 4 students and what it would actually cost us to build that program here using the resources that we have here. Because what I'm seeing here for me is not apples to apples, oranges to oranges. The numbers, they're not the same. So, and if you're talking about long range students coming up through from elementary into high school, we have to have something in place that we can build into. So I'm really not buying the argument that we can't do this because of money and space, because those really are not the 2 things that we should be using to determine how we're going to provide our education to our special education students. So I'm really having trouble with the way these numbers are laid out for us.
I think to that end, it's the placement numbers for here, and at any point that if Julie or Karen or Lisa want to jump in, please do so. I can't see you because I'm sharing my screen. this placement number here is based on what that tuition rate is, and that's really where the cost effectiveness piece comes into play. That's just over $24,000 per student for that rate. What I'm being told is for us to start, we are going to have to hire a teacher on. So the hiring of a teacher on to do that is where that cost comes into place. They already have a program into place.
I'm just saying that we should be able to look at what we actually have and look at our resources. And I'm really not sure, we are not contracting for the assistive. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not understanding how you have laid these numbers out for us, because I cannot believe that we can't get something that's appropriate for the students at our high school for less than $250,000.
There is currently no assistive tech program at the high school.
I'm just looking at what you're saying for teachers and aides.
Yeah.
That we have staff that, there are changes in those numbers. You're talking about kids that are aging out. We don't really have any projections of how those kinds of numbers are going to change, as kids move on and things change at the different levels. So for me, this is not, I'm not being able to completely understand how you are providing the information to me, plus we really shouldn't be saying we can't do it because we have space considerations. I mean, these are our students, and we need to do the best job and do it in the least restrictive environment, which means starting in our home school. And we should be able to have a conversation about, we be doing it here. And if we can't, why not? And it shouldn't be because of space and money, is my point. So
I agree with everything you say. The part that I'll add to that end is the other part of, when we look at programming, it's the district to make the determination of how we're able to provide those services to the student that's in place. And part of that consideration in that least restrictive piece is it feasible for the district to be able to provide those services themselves, or are they able to use other services that are available to them to there? And when we look at the programs we're using, whether that's a Cambridge or whether that's a Schuylerville or whether that's a Saratoga Springs, for the Cambridge piece of it, it keeps the driving as short as possible. It's an in-district program, so it'll still offer some of those opportunities that you would be able to get here into Salem. To there, it's certainly different because it's away, so it does have some different challenges that go with it. But in the end, that doesn't mean that we look at our students, and when we look at where our students are, they are ours, and we do a very good job here of keeping our own home. We keep 85% of our students here, or 84% of our students to home, but we get to spots where kids have needs that balance against what we're able to offer and support and supply. And sometimes that those needs and our ability to support those students don't match well. And so we look for opportunities where we can better serve those students outside of campus.
So what you did on your offsites costing was you brought in the threshold for high cost education, but you didn't provide that on the Salem side. So we don't really know what the net cost is.
On the side over here, you don't meet that threshold.
What do you mean we don't? When we have 250?
So if you look at 100, if you think 100, the costing for each of those students on the offsite costing,
right,
$29,000, almost $29,600.
We don't receive any high aid costs, but we did if we would over here.
Right. We pay for those students in full. Here, the rough costing for those students works out to be about $61,000.
Right.
This is the number that we pay per student.
Okay.
So it's almost $10,000 difference between the offsite costing and the in-district costing. Right now, $10,000 more expensive per student.
So you're highlighting the total cost
Yeah.
for kids, right? You're saying here, and you wouldn't meet the threshold for any of those kids.
Not in the offsiting,
Right.
the cost effectiveness does not rise to that threshold.
So over here,
On the Salem side, we
Part of the confusing part is that rough averaging
yeah,
be under the Salem costing side, but there wasn't room for it, right?
that's right. That's correct, Bob. And I'm sorry if that is a confusing piece. So when we look at here is that this, well, let me see if I can get it to work.
Dave, after you go through that, I just wanted to just add a note about the staffing.
Okay. So yeah, so this piece here does, actually, don't move, does relate to this information
okay,
because we have space. I'm sorry if that was confusing.
well, it was unclear.
Yeah, so the rough averaging applies to the Salem costing, yes. Thanks, Bob.
And the idea is that you've actually done it on the high end because you don't know whether you need 3 aides.
Right, I think the 2 would make it a wash.
Can I speak to that for a second? And Lisa, you can add in, so it's a 12-1-2 model. So that's the programming where those similar students. So most of our other students were in more restrictive programs. So this would be the model to you that would best support those students that would be coming back because those are the models they're currently in their placement is the 12-1-2. We don't currently, with our current staffing and our current special ed needs in our buildings, we don't have an additional special ed teacher currently that could fill that. So that's where that added 1.0 comes in. So the 3 aides are for the 12-1-2 for the 2 aides in the model. We anticipate that one of the students, trying not to be too identifiable, but that one of the students would need a support of a 1-to-1 aide in that. So that's where that 3rd aide comes in. Of course, that sometimes changes on programming, but that 3rd aide comes in there is for a 1-to-1 support. The other piece is the looking at the future needs over the next few years. Those students coming up from the elementary right now, and again, Lisa and Karen jump in if I'm not clear about this, but right now, those students we don't anticipate would have the need for that restrictive of a program. And again, it doesn't necessarily say we can't work on this life skills program, but some of those students would not fit into this program. They would need more of a special class, like a 12-1 or a special math or ELA class, but more of a Regents diploma or a CDOS track, not the life skills kind of path. So that's just a little bit, there's not probably going to be a lot of need in the next year or two filling into that. The other piece I wanted to say is that instructionally, the gap right now is a little over the 3 years. Right now, students are not all at the same level. So there is some junior high and some high school. We can, I think, work on that. We haven't built the model of the schedule yet, but in terms of what that would look like. But instructionally, those students would have instruction in different groups. I don't anticipate that would need any additional teachers. But again, if anybody entering into that program in the future was not on that credential, there's a new regulation that just was supposed to go in effect in July. They pushed it back 1 more year. But the regulation states that in grades 7 through 12, that students in any special class need to be instructed by a certified teacher. So moving forward, if students coming in do not qualify for, that were previously alternately assessed and didn't qualify for that credential under the regulation, we would need to then dedicate content teachers sections to that class for those students, which is pretty tight right now. Our content teachers are pretty much maxed out. So just, again, not a cost for next year, but just so you kind of know that the potential for other students coming in, if they're not, that could instructionally add costs.
But your special education teachers can have those certifications as well.
Right now, we, at the 7 through 12, I have one special ed teacher that has a social studies extension, but most of our special ed teachers fall on under the older certification, don't have the specific content certifications. Now, they could choose to pursue that under the new regulation, and we can have a waiver, a temporary waiver, but we haven't really discussed that with our teachers because we don't have a program that really requires that now. So that would be something that we would have to research.
There are, and just so you know, Jane and I have had some conversations about that dual certification pieces, and there's an extension of a year onto that because of the COVID-19 situation to there. So we're having conversations about that dual certifying piece of it. But right now, we don't have folks who have that dual certified requirement.
Dr. Glover, I don't know if it's just, I'm hearing everybody else, but your microphone and my ears, I'm just not hearing you very clearly. I apologize, but could you repeat that? I did not get what you were saying.
Okay, it's I have been in conversations with the Teachers Association about the dual certification requirement for, teaching in other classes with Jane Daly. That requirement's been pushed down the road a year because of the COVID-19 situation to there. So we're having some conversations about it, but there isn't anything other than I think it was Mr. Moore, who has some, and maybe I think he's it. Go ahead.
And we don't really have a need right now. We don't have a program that requires that need. It's something, if we anticipate that, whether or not if we decide we were going to do it for this particular program, we don't need that. We can just have a certified special education teacher. We don't need that. That would be down the road. So if we anticipate at some point we might need that, then we would definitely need to pursue those conversations and or trying to work on how we would get that certification. So that's something I think we look to the future for our options, but even this program doesn't require it, but it is possible sometimes that, and again, Lisa, correct me if you don't anticipate this, but where we could get a student that may fit into this program, that if we're not able to meet that content certification need, they wouldn't be able to come into this. So it's a new regulation from New York State that kind of changes the landscape a little bit in terms of what we're going to be able to do in the future.
So, but the kids that are currently attending the class in Cambridge, you could just have a certified special education teacher for those students?
Well, not speaking specifically to where these students would be coming from, but the students that would return to this program, we can just use a special education teacher that does not have specific content special.
Okay, so the 3.5 kids would not require the dual certification in order to have a program here in Salem.
Correct.
Right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. Because the high cost, would play into, what we had over here too. So I have to look at that. So you would get aid on those kids.
You're saying on the where it's the rough averaging piece,
Right.
moved over, right? Because I think that goes with the Salem costing side.
And it would change if depending upon whether the aides were program aides or individual aides. So that would change that rough averaging. Because it would be, it's done by student. So
Right.
one of the students would have program aides and an individual aide. So it would change those numbers. So, you know, it's kind of, you have to look carefully at, because it's done per student and not by the total cost.
That's correct, because it would depend on, you know, and that's what we're rough cutting it is for identification purposes. You know, so, you know, if every student didn't get, you know, assistive tech, you know, that would be different. If every student didn't have an aide, it would be different. So what that would look like would vary. But once you hit that threshold, it's that threshold number that gets spent. You know, so a student who goes over that would still be at that 39,576 number. So if you have a student who didn't go over that threshold, would land underneath that number, whatever that number happens to be.
I know this is anecdotal, but I spent a lot of time working with kids in the middle school, and they went off to high school, and the kids that became adults, graduated from high school and came back, that had stayed in their home school, they found jobs in their communities, they had networks in their communities, they had support systems in their communities, and they ended up having families and jobs and moving forward. But some of the kids that didn't have those connections, it was just harder for them. So I am very invested in if the students should stay in their own community. So I do want to make sure that we are making the best decisions for everybody. And I want to make sure that we don't do it out of expediency, but we do it because the placements that they're in are the best placements for those students. So I feel very strongly about it, and I will always advocate for that. So I would like to see, you know, an actual breakdown of, especially, you know, this is just a rough costing out, but I do think we need to be mindful of that, and we can't say because of money or space. I think we need to make best decisions about the students and the programs that they're in.
I philosophically agree with you on that, Ann, but the fiscal part of it, it's just a piece of it that we have to be aware of. You know, when we look at, when there's programs that are in place, and for, you know, that we look at, can we create a program here ourselves for one student? May not be the most fiscally germane thing to do, and we still do maintain that responsibility that's there. And that just comes down with resource management. Of course, we're not going to do that in a short changing of a student. Though I certainly respect the philosophical belief of keeping folks at home and in the community is in best shape for the students. But there are times where we, you know, on a more practical piece of it, that we have to look at what's also would work well for the student and be in the student's interest, but also does so financially responsibly.
Well, this is the place to have these conversations. So I think I just want you, I feel strongly about it, and I have to speak my piece on it.
Great, and I appreciate it.
Any further questions? So I have a quick question. I mean, obviously, we're not making placements in this meeting. That happens at the
No.
CSE level. And I was just curious, the tuition levels at those other schools. You mentioned the tuition at Cambridge, and you happened to mention two other schools. I was just curious if we knew what those tuition levels were.
Each school, we do have those, and I can get that information to you. But there are two, the costing way that we can do it is the same way for like non-resident. You know, so when we talked about our non-resident students, you can either cost out what that cost is per kid for the cost of that child's education, or you can go with that tuition rate. And each school does it differently. So I want to say Schuylerville actually costs out per spot for the cost of the student. Saratoga, I think, does the same.
No, Saratoga, there's Seneca Falls.
Saratoga follows Seneca Falls, and so does Cambridge. But, you know,
Saratoga, Seneca Falls.
Yeah. So they use their non-resident tuition rate.
Curious, do we know what their Seneca Falls is?
I want to, from the hip, Bob, it's mid-30s. I can get you that specific information. Yeah. but I can get you the specifics.
You know, again, that obviously we're not making placement decisions, and a single student going to a different, more expensive school could actually end up making this wash. We won't know. I mean, and I understand it's difficult to because these I don't know about the case of these annual reviews, but the right, we're looking at a $50,000 difference on the in your example there, the off-site life skills costing, and there's assumptions also then on that left-hand side that those 3.5 would be in that same placement. And I don't know that to be the case. Excellent. Any other questions? All right. On to communications. On discussion on communications. I think Anne asked for this to be on the agenda.
I did, only because it is actually an agenda item and we're using it intermittently and it doesn't have to be on the agenda. So we had talked about the PTA liaison, and we came up with another way of getting that information. I just didn't know if we wanted to keep the communication line on the agenda or whether we wanted to drop it. Open meeting laws require that if we put out one piece of communication, we have to put out all the communication. So we just have to be consistent or not have it on the agenda. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Would you be able to, not immediately, but forward that to everybody? I could look it up, but I would be curious to familiarize myself better with that piece of open meetings law. But what, just so I understand, so you're saying if we can't pick and choose. My assumption is that anything that is involves something that can be confidential or should be confidential, that
Right.
doesn't need to be communicated. But otherwise, good, bad, indifferent needs to be included.
Right. We just can't put all the thank you notes out. We have to put all of the communication out. You know, that does not meet the threshold for confidentiality. Yes, I can do that.
Thoughts on that by other board members, just as far as not the interpretation of the open meetings law, but the whether the lean would be towards excuse me, towards keeping it on or interest in not having it on.
And it's been used mostly thank you notes or either graduating seniors or people thanking us for the building use. And it seems like most of the communication that we would get that wouldn't fall in open meetings law because it has names and specific info. That's the bulk of the communication. I don't see where anything else that we would get we wouldn't want shared. Yes.
No, I'm just asking because I think it should be there. I'm just saying that we just have to make sure that we're using it consistently, because there are some things that that have come and gone by, and they maybe should have been posted. So I just, if this is something that we think is important, which I do think is important, we just maybe need to clarify the procedures for what goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, I think it's a good practice to have it on there. I guess what are some examples, and not specific examples, but general type examples of stuff that maybe we would feel less comfortable putting on there because it's not a thank you note from the senior. That would include putting on there if we were, as we should, follow meetings on.
The request for preschool transportation should have been there. I mean, they were not anything that shared confidential material, but it was a request to the board to make a consideration of a change, and those kinds of things should be attached because it came up in conversation. That would be one of the first things. I would have to go back, and look at some of the other things that we had, but that comes to mind immediately.
Oh, that's a great example.
Yep.
Right. And I think there would be, I think there's benefit for other people in the community to see those type of letters and because they might have an opinion one way or the other.
Mhm.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So what are next steps on this then? I mean, it sounds like there is not interest in removing the communications line from the agenda. I mean, maybe it's just a matter of committing follow-up meetings law in this case.
It may just need to, I don't think, we just need to have clear expectations about what goes on there.
So is there any objection to having it on there, number one, from any of the board members? And number two, is there any objection to following open meetings law?
No.
I just I suspected, but I'm sure. Excellent. All right. I mean, it seems like we have some direction. So
Right.
any other comments on communications? Hearing none, we will move on to donations to the district.
That is something that I also asked to have on here because I do think that this is something we have a policy on it. The policy committee has reviewed it. It's been readopted by the board. It's in the new policy. But this is one that I think we really do need to have some administrative procedures, policies and not policies, administrative, what's it called, Dr. Glover? The procedures for how to follow that, because I am acutely aware that we are not seeing all of the donations that are coming into the school. So I just want to make sure that we aren't missing some of those things and taking action. So however that, I think we've done our job on the policy side. We just need the procedures for how it's going to be followed up.
I think part of that is just a retrain and a continual reminder on some things. You're looking for administrative regulation.
Regulations, I knew it was a word, thank you.
To there, but it's that reminder of, anything that gets donated to the school, should go to the board for acceptance, whether that's, it's monetary or material in need. And I just think that sometimes, folks forget that, get that piece. So I think part of it's just a re-education and a continual reminder to folks that are there. And then just if they do have those things, what they should do with it, what they should do with that information so we have it, so we can get it to the agenda for your acceptance.
So it's just, and I honestly think that because even if you train the person that's doing it, if that person leaves and another person comes in, if nothing's written down and you don't have any of those regulations or procedures, that sort of sometimes gets lost in translation. So I do think that just having something written down about the standard way that we're going to see those, I think would be very helpful.
Yep. That's easy enough to put into a handbook or a faculty handbook, which we have, and we update regularly, annually at least.
I think also there's the piece just for donor liability, right? That that if something's donated to us and we accept that gives some protection to those donors, and we're not going to want to. I think that just makes sense to support those people who are supporting us.
Agreed.
Excellent. I think we have some direction there as well. Any further questions or comments on the donations to the district? All right. Moving along to policy review. I know that we have nothing on the agenda, and we also had an opportunity to hear from the chair of the policy committee. So I'm going to assume there's nothing else to add.
No, we're good.
Topics for future board meetings.
Let's see. Just when we will hear something about budgets? Our budget?
Yeah, we absolutely will start hearing things on our budget. Pretty much everyone regionally at this point. We'll get you the draft of some of the work that we have done and kind of playing with numbers as we're getting adjustments from other places. So you have that information. Really what we're doing is what pretty much most other school districts are that are reliant on aid to the level that we are. And that's, we're waiting to see what this 30-day look back period looks like. Because, you know, with the state talking about a $15 billion deficit and saying 20% of a reduction, you know, we're looking at things and we're having conversations about pieces, but a lot of this, if it gets to be that size number, you know, as a board, we're going to have a conversation of here's where our goals are, here's what our priorities are. So when we start looking at lists of things where we need to start looking at reductions, where, you know, where are those pieces we want to, I mean, we want to avoid kids as best kids and kids programs. I mean, I think that goes without saying, but depending on what size that cut is, may start talking about, you know, we're gonna start talking about people in programs. So it's, we're going to have a bigger bit of a conversation around that.
No, that seems like a good topic. Also, I think to, you know, I don't think I can emphasize enough that this, you know, transparency in this process and also kind of early warning, right? That this isn't anything any of us would wish for. You know, I think that having the community know sooner rather than later the current concerns, I think, you know, serves everybody well. So good topic for future board meeting. Any other topics for future board meetings? I had mentioned it before, and I was thinking of something we would wait on longer, but the piece with the similar to Newcomb's exchange program, I think I would just be interested in a very brief discussion on that, just to see what the interest of the board is, and whether it's something that I don't think we need to put lots of time into it. It looks like potentially there's going to be significant reductions in immigration by presidential executive order here in the coming months, and this isn't something that's going to happen for next year anyway. But I'm just curious, just curiosity of what board members think. Any topics for future board meetings? All right, moving on to the moment we've all been waiting for, public audience. So for those of you who haven't been at weren't at our last remote meeting, we're going to go around one by one and call on you, especially if you've just called in, because we can't see you. So we're gonna call on everybody one by one. Hopefully, get some comments from everybody. We're probably going to start here with Jane. So it looks like Jane is not muted, and actually did extend her name out from just. Oh, actually, it was Daly. Now it's just D.
Ooh.
Did she just hang up? Oh no, there she is.
She's there. She just moved.
Excellent. So just want to give you the opportunity if you have any public comment tonight, Jane.
Oh, for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, I was booted out. Well, good evening to everybody. I was booted out about 6 times. So I initially started my full name and then I just got tired of it. So that was my name of the system. I'm doing the name.
First name is plenty.
Right? I know. But I did get, I wanted to hear the special ed piece better because I kept on getting booted out on that one. So will the link be up pretty soon about so I can hear it, so I can play it back?
Yeah, it's the video. I have to get to our tech folks once we're done and set, and that takes a little bit. Usually it takes a couple days to get it through. So we'll have that video posted before the week is out.
Okay, that's all. That's all I have for now. I think I'll do everything else individually. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jane. We're going to move on now to Kim Irby. Kim, I'm going to unmute you just to check in to see if you have any public comment for us tonight.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We gotcha.
Okay, wonderful. Actually, I do have something. I wanted to follow up on something that Anne had said with regards to the capital improvement project and zoning. I'm the clerk for the Town of Salem Planning Board, and the school does fall under the Town of Salem zoning. It also falls under the Town of Salem planning. So all of the projects and all of that, any expansions and stuff, really do need to come in front of the planning board. And I don't know if anybody's reached out to you guys to let you know this, or if there was any future plans to put the applications in and so on and so forth.
The district has not been advised by council that we would need to do that. I'm reaching out to him now.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because I don't know how the
If it would be any
School
different
is
for a school
exempt
district,
from-
right?
from zoning. I mean, who's signing off on the building permits? That would be Sue Clary. But it is under zoning and site plan, so I don't know how she'd be able to sign off on
Well,
the
you
county
know,
permits.
the part that I can answer to is all of our project work gets authorized by the state. So I don't know how the state authorizations work in compliance with the local, with some of the local pieces that come into play, which is why I'll reach out to the attorney because he'll have that understanding between, you know, where the local pieces go versus where the, you know, the state pieces go through, because it's the state that signs off on all the projects and plans that
So you guys don't have to go through Washington County Code Enforcement for any of
we
your
don't go,
buildings?
we haven't gone through anything through the county. We haven't gone anything through the town. Karen McGregor is saying we didn't do anything with the project either. But I think that's probably good information to have about, you know, how that logistic works. So I'll get the answer from our school attorney and how that works together so I can get information out to, so I can get information out to not only the board, but I'll see if I can get it to you too. So
Okay,
you
that
have
would
an
be-
Understanding how it works.
So I can let the planning board know what to do, what
Absolutely.
their role is under zoning, and compliance and all of that.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kim. No,
Well,
that
thank
was-
you very
that's great.
much.
All right, moving on to, we're going to call on Lisa Hanson now. Hello, Lisa, you're unmuted on our end.
Oops. Hello, all. I just wanted to take this time to thank you all as a board for your dedication and efforts on behalf of our district. It's very much appreciated.
You're welcome very much. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight. And actually, these meetings are actually pretty easy. You can hang out in a comfortable place wearing gym shorts and shirt. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We already had Jane just looking on my screen here. We're going to move to Maxwell 39, who I'm going to assume is Mrs. Maxwell. Mrs. Maxwell, do you have any public comment for us tonight?
Hi, all. I just want to say I am in favor of the muted colors as well for the playground with your discussion. The grays and purples and primary colors sound good. And also thank you again for all your work and dedication to the district.
Thank you very much for your comments. We're going to move on to Wendy Hunter. I see Wendy Hunter right here on my screen. Actually, you just mute yourself. You unmute yourself and I muted you. Okay, you're unmuted now. Go.
I'm good. I have nothing to say tonight. You guys addressed everything I already had. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. We had to hear you speak. We always aim for 100% participation in the remote meeting. So it looks to me like now we have Stacy Rich. Hi, Stacy.
Hi, guys. Sorry I was a little scattered in my attendance tonight. I tried by phone at my house, but am ironically in front of Bancroft Library behind one of our board members, Jackie. I'm in. All right. Sorry, I won't go on long, but I just really appreciate the look into the special ed program. I have a very, honest and true investment in including all of our kids and keeping all our kids in our community or in our building. So I really philosophically stand strong with you, Anne. I feel like, I get fiscal decisions, I get decisions, dollar decisions, but I feel like what we can't see is the value of kids being included in their community right here in Salem. And not only in their time that they're here, but Anne was so poignant and true that the time when they leave us. There's so many impacts that our special needs kids have on our staff, our regular ed kids, the community, and they're really, really able to teach us far more than we ever realized we didn't know. I just am putting my plug in for a real hard, long look of the benefits outside of saving dollars and finding locations to teach them. but really somehow look at, hard look on the cost, the real quality of bringing them back. One of the, I took some screenshots of what was on there, and one of the ones that I was kind of confused at was how Dr. Glover, and again, being totally transparent, being totally raw and honest, I would have this conversation with anybody. When we're looking at the screen that has the two kind of charts out, and you have placement, and you have unit 3.5, and then you have cost. Can you explain that that line to me and exactly what that is?
Sure. And when you look at the offsite life skills costing, there's the 3.5 kids. There's actually 4 students in the class, but one of those students is a half day and does other things in another program elsewhere. So it's not, we don't pay the full tuition cost for that student in the life skills program offsite. We have that student in a different program, and she does that for the other half a day, comes out of a different costing area.
So then if I'm to understand that, like the placement of 3.5 students costs our district $84,080 a year?
That's correct.
Roughly. Well, just them going there. And then you've got, if they have assistive tech or they have APE, if they have music and yada, yada. So, okay. I just have to wrap my head around understanding the numbers, and I'm not a numbers person, so I apologize for that. But I appreciate this conversation taking place, and I guess I more or less wanted to really second Ann's. I really appreciate her being very honest with her philosophy, and I'm right there with her, and would love to task force bringing our kids and keeping them in Salem, because as I said before, there's a lot more that you're never going to see on a dollar line. You're never going to see it on a budget. There's a lot more value and a lot more teaching opportunities that we just miss when we don't have them in our building. So, and thank you. Communication wise, I couldn't be happier as a parent, as a staff member during this whole, crazy time. I feel like I've very, very informed. And I feel like the district's really spot on with how they're handling everything. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your comments. And I think we got comments from everybody. So that always makes me happy. Questions from board members for Stacy? Or any of the public commenters? All right. So moving on, just one quick announcement. So in anticipation of having only 2 more meetings that I will preside at, that I'll be the president at, I'm going to ask at probably the June meeting that we also sing the alma mater. I always want to sing the alma mater meeting after we do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I just want everybody to prepare their singing voice for that. Hopefully we can all do it together.
Maybe we should invite Mrs. Payne to that one, please.
That would be great.
Mrs. Payne for the alma mater. Got
it. All right, moving on to executive session. Do we have a motion to move into executive session for discussion of employment history of a particular person?
So moved.
Motion. Sorry, go ahead, Dick.
It actually is 3 items. Just trying to make sure we're accurate with it here. Is the employment history of a particular person's, negotiations, and potential pending litigation.
So we have a motion. I think your motion still holds, Heidi. So a motion by Heidi. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ann. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. No action anticipated?
No action anticipated.
Excellent. Well, and everybody, so just so we're all clear here, I think that people are welcome to stay on this WebEx, and we are going to leave, and then we'll come back to this one to check if anybody's still on. Is that correct? Am I correct, Dave?
No, I think once the host leaves this meeting is over. When the host comes back, the meeting may open up again. to there, but once we kind of all exit out of the meeting, it's, the meeting is done.
Would there be a way in the future to have a second device so that we would be able to, leave that in case anybody wanted to do the equivalent of sit on the stairs and wait for us?
Yeah, let me see what I can do.
Excellent. So people are welcome to check back in periodically for the rest of the evening to see if we happen to come back. And otherwise, thank you very much, everybody, for signing in. Have a great night.
Hey guys.
Your link should be ready for you.
Thank you.
Bob, want to give me ownership again?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, you can stop the recording.
You're all set.
Thank you.
So do we actually close out of this one, or do we mute ourselves and minimize and go to the next one? I mean, how do we keep this open?
So we leave this one and then come back into the other invitation.